Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Y'all may remember that a few months ago, the folks at Caroma electric scooters sent me the Caroma P3 to test out. That scooter was so much fun and I had an absolute blast testing it until I didn't. But I do have to say that I was extremely impressed with the overall build quality because even though I took a spill on that scooter, it still bounced back with almost no damage to the scooter. It certainly had a lot less damage to it than I did to me. But even with that being included in the video, the folks at Caroma reached out and said, hey, we'd like for you to try another scooter. I was shocked to hear from them, honestly. I really thought that including that footage in that video was gonna be a death knell for that one. But turns out they kind of liked it, not to mention the fact that it did show that it's a pretty sturdy product. So what they sent me this time is the Caroma P3. Now there's a lot of differences between the P7 and the P3, and I haven't yet figured out what their numbering system is with their stuff because the styles tend to be so different, but they stay in that same kind of naming structure. But regardless, the fact is that I actually kind of had my eye on this scooter from the beginning. When they first contacted me and I started looking into them, this scooter popped up and I really wanted to try it. So I'm glad that they had the faith in me to send this to me and let me test it out. So let me run down some of the stats about this scooter. The P3 has 16 by 3-inch tires and they are extremely knobby. So it really kind of looks like the idea behind this scooter is for it to be an off-road vehicle, something with a little bit of extra traction, something that can dig into that gravel that spilled me on the other scooter. But it also has regular full-size handlebars like you'd get on a BMX bike as opposed to an electric scooter. The P3 has a 500-watt motor. I'm going to drop the stats right here because I can't remember all of the specific details about the motor and its output and its capability. So I'll just leave that up there for you guys to check that out. Now it does have disc brakes on the front and on the rear, which gives great stopping power for something that has 500 watts of power behind it. And it is a very sturdily built steel tubular frame. One of the things I really like about Caroma's products is the amount of structural integrity that these things seem to have. You can tell they put these together to take some abuse. The scooter has a headlight, but it does not have a rear brake light or any kind of tail light system. There's no turn signals or anything like that, but it does have a reflector behind the seat. And speaking of the seat is extremely comfortable. You've got a good spring suspension on this thing, but there is no suspension on the rear end. The front has suspension forks, and the handlebars fold down to make the scooter more compact. And then on the front, there's this little basket that's designed for carrying your cargo. You've got front and rear fenders to keep the dirt off. And you've got a rubberized deck for resting your feet while you're riding. Now, one of the things that you notice early on is that this is kind of a hybrid between an e-bike and a scooter. The difference, of course, being that you don't have pedals on this. You simply have this deck for resting your feet. So we're not getting any exercise with this thing. This is purely for transportation or just having fun. So speaking of which, let's take this thing out for a ride and see how it performs. All right, we're handling pretty decent in mud. It's a good way to start. So we're starting off in, I guess, speed number 1 or level 1, whatever they call it. It's not pedal assist because there's no pedals. But with the setting at 1, level 1, we're doing 9 miles an hour. And we're on gravel with some mud. And the tires feel pretty good. The seat's surprisingly comfortable. But let's kick up to level 2. All right, that puts in a little bit more power. We're at 15 miles per hour on level 2. So I really wanted to feel what this thing was going to be like with these bigger tires. It feels more like a mountain bike, but it feels a little squishy in its handling. I'm still not feeling confident enough to say that I would just really open this thing up on these kind of roads. Definitely feels better than the P7 did. Got some big grippy tires. Enjoy a nice view through here. somebody was courteous enough to leave us a couch. Tell you what, people. I was really hoping that with these big knobby tires on here that this would give me a certain level of confidence to really just open up, but I'm not feeling it yet. Wow, it is washed out back here. Get through this mud. So I think what I'm feeling when it comes to being less than confident is that the space between my legs here, on a bicycle, you would usually have something to grip. That kind of helps with balance, helps with control. And all I've got here is something to rest my feet on. So if the scooter starts to come out from under me, I don't really have anything to help me hang on to it, you know? But it's one of those things that I think after a while I could build up the confidence to do it. But starting off, I'm not there yet. All right, let's kick it up to level 3. All right, level 3 gets us up to 20 miles per hour. Now this 500 watt motor is a little sluggish. It's not a strong performance motor. It's not something that you're gonna really feel like you're just really rocking and rolling with this thing. The get up and go is comfortable. I mean, I don't feel like it's gonna try to rock it out from under me, but it definitely does not just have any punch to it. And we are riding on paved road, so you know it's not gonna get a whole lot of extra oomph behind it if you're on like a trail or something like that. Brakes are a little squeaky, a little loud. Motor's not too bad. It's relatively quiet. On the road, I've got a little more confidence with this because of the larger tires. Extra beading on the tires feels good too. I like that this has regular handlebars as opposed to scooter style handlebars. I feel like I've got a little bit more control over what this thing wants to try to do. There's also just a little bit more of a rake to the front end as opposed to having that straight up and down shaft like most scooters do. Let's do some grass riding here. Let's ride through the pine barrens here. See if we can find the Jersey Devil in Tennessee. This ride, as bumpy as this little grassland is, the ride itself is relatively smooth. This land is squishy though. Ooh. All right, let's turn around. That was fun. Yeah, I was hoping for a little drier weather to get out here and do this because I really didn't want to have to be fighting with mud and squishy ground the whole time I was riding, but I guess it is a good test to see how it's going to handle on ground like this. This is a pretty comfortable seat. It's got a little bit of suspension to it. There's also a little bit of suspension on the front fork. There's not any on the rear. The only suspension you're going to get under your butt is the springs in the seat. Whew. Man, this is a rough road. Now the rear end on this scooter is very heavy. That 500 watt motor puts the majority of the weight of the scooter on that back axle. And with nothing underfoot to grab onto, this is not going to be a jumper. You're not going to have anything to be able to grab onto to help control this thing once you get airborne. Losing a little bit of power on hill climbing. So it's definitely not going to be a strong one for hilly areas. But on flat ground, it's fun. driving through some rather wet areas, and wet and electric vehicles is not always a good combination. But so far nothing's smoking or on fire. But I'm also trying to avoid these puddles. I don't think I want to take that test today. But the scooter does handle pretty well going around these puddles, kind of zipping in and out of all this. You're looking for comfort and ease of control, P3's got you. You're looking for power and super agility, probably not this one. I would be curious to see, though, how this one would do with the 750 watt motor. You know, a little more get up and go might be nice. One thing about these e-scooters compared to e-bikes is you got to monitor your power, what's left in your battery. With an e-bike, if you run out of power, you at least have the option of pedaling. It's not easy, but you still have that option. With this, you don't have that. You're just going to be getting off and pushing this thing. Man, you really got to be looking ahead on this trail. This thing is fun. If this trail wasn't just complete mush, I'd love to get out here and just really be able to see what this thing will do. I'm just so worried that I'm going to be trucking along and end up in the middle of a giant puddle and this thing's going to be just completely destroyed. We have had weeks of constant rain. Finally got a couple days break. I loaded the scooter in the car so that I could take it and test it yesterday. And woke up and it was pouring and it didn't stop the whole day. Overall, handles really well. It's a little zippy. It's quiet. It's comfortable. And it's fun. And we're back at the car. All right, let's go someplace and talk about this thing. That was an enjoyable ride, but to be honest with you, it wasn't as exciting as I had hoped. I really had certain expectations that I had developed about this scooter before I got it in. I mean, honestly, I think we always do that with something like this, but really what it comes down to with me is that I figured with the big knobby tires that we were gonna have a little bit more power and a little bit more performance than we did. So let's talk about the pros and cons of this scooter. The first pro, of course, is the price. This scooter comes in at a really desirable price point for what it is, and I will leave a link in the description box below so that you can go check out what their price is currently with the discount that they are going to provide for my viewers. Another pro is it's a super comfortable scooter to ride. The seat on this thing is a lot more comfortable than I expected, and much more so than the one on the P7. I like the handling of the full-size handlebars, and I like the confidence of those tires. Now let's talk about some of the cons. This scooter is severely underpowered. For the design and the expectation, there's just not any get up and go. And I was really disappointed with the lack of oomph that this bike had. In fact, I found it getting a little bogged down when I was riding through things like really soggy ground or even trying to go up a small hill. Even at level 3, this thing just didn't seem to have any real torque to it. And I think my biggest con with this one is it's just not terribly practical to move around. With the P7, all I had to do was fold that thing down and I could put it in the back of my car, even with gear back there, and still be able to fit the entirety of the scooter under my privacy cover. With this one, there was no way I was doing that. It ends up being extremely large when you're trying to transport it. And really, it's because of those big wheels on it. But that's also the selling point of this scooter. But the fact is there's not an easy way to get this thing in and out, and it's not gonna fit on a standard bike rack. In order to transport this on an e-bike rack, you're going to have to add some kind of a crossbar in order to give the rack something to hang on to. But don't get me wrong, I don't dislike this scooter. It's just not my favorite for the application I thought I was going to enjoy it for. What I will say about this is one of the things about the P7 that could be an issue for some is that it's so high powered that if you're not careful with it, it will get away from you. And if you're an older person that's worried about taking falls off of something like this, this one is going to be a much better fit for you. Also, if you have a young person in your family who's just getting started on e-scooters and you want something that you can feel confident that they're going to be able to ride and enjoy without it being dangerous for them, once again, this is a good choice. But if you're looking for a powerhouse that you can ride through mud and snow and bad conditions, this is not going to be the choice for that. It's just too underpowered. It honestly needs that 750 watt motor that the P7 has. Now, I understand that Caroma has a version of this. It's not the same frame. It's a similar frame, but it's more like a electric moped looking thing, and it's got the more powerful motor to it. That one looks like it'd be a lot of fun to ride. But if you're looking for something with power, if you're trying to ride in traffic, then this is not going to be the choice for you. Now, most of your entry-level e-scooters are going to be tuned to where 20 miles per hour is your maximum speed. The reason for that being that in most areas, that's the capping speed to needing a special license and or registration for your scooter. So most of Caroma's entry-level scooters are going to be governed at 20 miles per hour to keep you from having to worry with all of that. So even if you get the more powerful motor, you're still going to be limited to 20 miles per hour. You're just going to have better range and a little bit better torque. The scooter is fun, and I can see riding it around town, going and getting groceries with it, making quick runs to different places, and enjoying riding it as long as I'm staying off of busy streets and I have a bike path or something like that that I can ride on. But I certainly would not trust this in an environment where I'm having to merge into traffic of any kind. The scooter certainly has its market, but off-road action is just not it. So that's it for my review of the Caroma P3. I enjoyed the scooter. I just wasn't thrilled with it. And I hope that I was able to relay that to you in a way that makes sense. I do believe that there are applications for this particular scooter, and there is definitely a target audience for it. And I think that maybe I just missed the mark on that. I think I really wanted it for something that it really wasn't designed to do. But now we figured that out. So I'm gonna struggle to get this back in the car and get it back home. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you can be made aware of all upcoming videos. Also leave a comment and let me know what you think about the Caroma P3 or any of the Caroma line of products. And let me know if this sounds like something that you would enjoy. But until the next time, prepare for the world that you live in, not the one you wish existed. And we'll see you around.